Good morning. Will you check real quick to make sure that you can actually see? I wasn't able to check the...
I can see you.
Okay, good. And you can see like the oven?
No,
Kind of?
oh, the chat is over it, but yes, kind of.
Okay. Let me check on here real quick just to make sure that it's doing what I expect. Yeah, this will be okay. Okay, cool. So, hi everyone. How are you? We are going to do chocolate chip cookies today. And this is something that Marisa is like the master of. Legitimately makes like the best chocolate chip cookie I've ever had. So we're gonna treat this like a regular episode of Learn with Jason, and Marissa's gonna be the teacher today. So let me grab my apron. We decided to dress up. We put on outside clothes today because it's like haven't been outside in so long. All right, so Marisa, do you want to talk about this recipe and like the history of it?
Yeah, so my friend Tico gave me this recipe a few years ago, and I love to bake, he loves to bake, and so I coerced him into giving me this recipe after I had his chocolate chip cookies. So these are Tico's chocolate chip cookies. I think he has since changed his recipe a little bit.
Well, didn't you tweak it too?
I did, a little bit. We both we like different styles of cookies, so we each kind of tweaked it a tiny bit to get what we wanted. But this is a recipe that he gave me, and yeah, it's one of my favorite cookie recipes, so it should be fun.
Yeah, it's extremely good. And so yeah, I think like what we're gonna do today is a little different than usual because usually we're just kind of making breakfast. So I think we're gonna and like cookies are kind of they're a little bit slower too because there's stuff like aging the dough in the fridge and stuff that we totally did like the cooking show thing and made a batch yesterday so that we can like and now we put this in the fridge to rest. Oh look at this batch that's already ready for us to go. It's gonna be super fun. So while Marissa's getting ready and pulling out ingredients, I'm gonna make us coffee so she doesn't bite my face off. And yeah, what's up, chat? What are you doing? How's your weekend going?
Hello. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read the name. I apologize. I'd have to get real close.
That's Max and Nikki.
Hi. We're just getting all the ingredients set up, so.
Do you want to talk through what they are?
Yeah. So we've got a bunch of sugar. So we have regular sugar that we're going to use to cream together with the butter. And then I use dark brown and light brown sugar. They have a little bit different flavors. The dark brown sugar is almost, it's almost kind of acidic. It's like sweet, but has this it has a little bit different taste. So having the different sugars gives you a little bit more depth of flavor. And then we have regular flour, that's not surprising. And then we also have butter, lots of butter, always butter. This takes 2 sticks. It's actually a fairly big batch of cookies. You can make it either 1 dozen cookies or 2 dozen, depending on the size of them. So
You should make it 1 dozen. They taste better when they're bigger.
we will talk about that opinion when we get there. And then we'll have a couple eggs in here as well. And then our baking soda and baking powder, just normal stuff.
What's the difference between baking soda and baking powder?
I don't know, if you mix them up though, it goes real bad. I know that. I think the baking, it has something to do with the rise and like how it interacts in the oven with heat. Cause like if you mix up your baking powder and baking soda, you will totally ruin whatever you're trying to do. And then we have chocolate chip cookies. So I want to talk about this.
Hold this up.
Oh yeah, I know. I want to talk about this for a second. So I use the Guittard chocolate chip cookies, or yeah, chocolate chips. These are the milk chocolate, and then I also have semi-sweet, and I mix them together in the cookie. That way the cookie is not too sweet. If you only use milk chocolate, it'll be really, really sickeningly sweet, and it's too much. So the semi-sweet actually is a little bit bitter because it's more cocoa to sugar, and it balances it out really nicely. The thing about chocolate chips is that you may think, well, they're just chocolate chips, they're going in, they're gonna melt in the cookie, it's fine, it doesn't really matter what kind you use. I have used so many, and these are absolutely better. So if you can get your hands on these,
So
I would.
something that's worth pointing out, like especially if you've never tried different types of chocolate side by side, like one of the most like I guess one of the biggest influences on the way that I cook and interact with food is when I actually started doing taste tests of things. So like I did this once when I realized I was spending way too much money on whiskey because I believed that you had to buy the really expensive bottles to get good whiskey. And so my friend Nate and I decided like, okay, we should actually like decide whether or not that's true. So we bought the cheap bottles, the mid-price bottles, the expensive bottles, and we did a blind taste test where we had our partners at the time just pour us little samples and number the cups, and then we'd taste them and we'd write down what we thought. And what we realized is like, you can taste the cheap stuff, you can really taste the expensive stuff, and then a lot of the stuff in the middle doesn't matter. But ever since I did that experiment, I do that with everything. I'm like, okay, well I want to try the really good chocolate and the okay chocolate and see what the difference is. And like, if you do a taste test of Hershey's chocolate, like the Hershey's chocolate bar, next to like a high quality, you know, fancy pants chocolate bar, the difference is, it is legitimately night and day. So I'd highly recommend giving that a shot just to like see what the taste difference is, and this is an example of that.
And Max, I think it was Max, sorry, like I said, I don't have my glasses on.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
Max.
put this on. Get closer, I'm gonna get loud.
Oh. I'll wait. I can't talk over that, I don't think. Just waiting. Come on. Max asked if it was chewy or crispy. So the thing about these cookies that I really like is it's a little bit of both. So we'll talk about that as we get to it, but the way that we bake these, they get nice and kind of caramely crispy on the edges and then are really, really soft on the inside. They are, in my opinion, like you can have kind of cakey cookies or soft cookies, and these are somewhere in the middle because you get both, ideally. So, yeah.
Well, and that's another reason why I like the big ones, is I feel like the bigger they are, the more that contrast comes in. She disagrees with me on this, like.
I don't, he likes the really big cookies, and that's what I'll show you today, because I'm acquiescing to his request. I personally like to make 2 dozen cookies out of this batch. I like littler cookies, and it's easier to, like, you can have them as little snacks. These are like big old cookies.
They're 4-ounce cookies. They're like the ones you would buy in a coffee.
They're huge. They're like that big. All right, so I think we have all our ingredients out. The thing I'm gonna do while he's finishing the coffee, so we have butter, and I'm gonna cube this up. So we have 2 sticks of butter, and in this recipe, you want to have it cold. So I always take it right out of the fridge right before I'm gonna start, and then we'll cube it up and just put it directly in here.
Should we put it in the fridge? Like while we get the other stuff weighed out? Like we did with Chance's biscuits?
No, it doesn't matter that much.
I'm realizing now that I wish we could like, there's only an outlet here, and so we can't move this
Oh,
to
to
the
the other
back.
side.
So it's like very, maybe,
You can move it.
yeah, maybe what we can
Like
do is put this
that
over
on
here
the other
for now.
side. That's a good
That way
one.
we can see what's going on, and then
Yeah.
we'll move it back when it's time.
Oh good, my mess that I was hiding. Was awesome. I am not as organized as Jason. There's a lot of differences. He's a lot more of a talker. I'm really bad at narrating what I'm doing. So, you know, you get what you're given. So yeah, I'm just gonna cube this up, and we'll put it directly into the mixer because we're gonna cream together the sugar and the butter first, which is typically one of the first steps in making cake or cookies, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
Nikki, Nikki is he lives. You're in. Are you in Brussels or Belgium? And so he's laughing at our actual sticks of butter. Yes, we are going to put actual sticks of butter.
Big old sticks of butter.
You need.
You hand me that towel. All right. So you want to cube this up. It doesn't need to be like even or anything. You just want to cube it up so it's a little bit easier to incorporate with the sugar. Saves us a little bit of time. And like I said, you want it cold. It helps to keep the dough a little bit colder as we're doing this, because you're gonna work it a lot. So you start out with cold ingredients, it'll be a little easier for you. Not in Brussels, but also not as far, like he says.
Well, but like I think that's just true of literally anywhere in Belgium. It's not that far from Brussels.
Ghent-ish. All right, so we've got the butter in there, and then next we'll put in the sugar. Do you want me to wait so that you can do
Yeah,
this?
you're supposed to tell me to do stuff.
I know, well...
Well, you told me to make you coffee or you were going to murder me. So
I asked for coffee before this started. Yeah, silence. That's when you know you're right. It takes you a long time to make it. What? How do you want me to bide time?
You riff.
I'm not good at riffing.
Tell a joke.
No. It's like no, I won't tell a joke. You tell a joke. Bring your stuff over here and say things.
Okay, so chat, I do have a question for you. What is the best, like where were you when you had the best cookie you've ever had? Like where, did you make it yourself? Did you buy it somewhere? I want to hear about it because...
Oh, and what type of cookie was it?
Yeah, what type of cookie was it?
My best cookie I've ever had. Wait, does it have to be a cookie?
Well, I mean, that was the question. If you want to change the rules, you're always
No,
welcome
I
to.
shouldn't change the rules.
Also, are you not going to answer your own cookie as the best cookie?
Well, that seems very... It's a lot of hubris to say your own cookie. But yeah. That's why I keep making them, because they're my favorite. I don't buy chocolate chip cookies anymore. Sometimes I do the taste test to see, like, you know, it's like a laboratory experiment. Like, let me see, is it better? And I'm always like, no, not better.
Well, and so, like, what are the things that make a perfect cookie, right? Like, I think there are a few things to me that are really important. Like, you have to get the sweetness right. So you don't want it to be too sweet or not sweet enough. You don't want it to taste like cake. It shouldn't be like a scone or something like that. Like there are cookies you get, they're really fluffy, but when you bite into them, they're almost like bread. And that's fine, but like, whatever. But
New York, I see. Culture Coffee has one of the best ones.
Ooh,
And
Culture
someone else
Coffee. Yeah,
said,
Culture Coffee is really good.
from the store, branded American cookies. Okay.
All right, so Nikki, this one's gonna change your life because you can definitely make this. We made these cookies in Europe, didn't we? We were able to find. Yeah, we were able to find all the ingredients and make these cookies overseas. So
yeah, Europe and Thailand. I mean, they're mostly. It's really sometimes baking soda is hard to find, but I'm just waiting on Jason, so
I'm almost
this
done.
is not my fault.
What?
He wants to be the one to do it, so, you know.
You're supposed to teach me. If you just do it, then we're not learning.
Well, this is why we should have done the coffee first. Just throwing it out there for future consideration.
Alright, alright.
You'll want to bring the scale over too. So, you'll need I guess I could talk a little bit about the stuff that we'll need, like we talked about.
Oh, you did have things to talk about.
Anyway, we've got a stand mixer here. This is a big one. This is a 6-quart. So you can make lots of dough in that. You'll have that, and you'll also have a paddle. Do not use a whisk or the whisk attachment if you have a mixer, or if you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I don't have a paddle, I'll just use the whisk. It will not work. You will be so sad, and you will also have all the dough all up in the whisk, and it will be a nightmare to get out. Don't be me. Don't make my mistakes.
I was gonna say, this sounds like something you learned the hard way.
I did, because it was a long time ago, and I was making cookie dough, and I didn't have a paddle, and I was like, it's okay, I use the whisk of my hand mixer. It was horrible, horrible. All right, and then we'll have a scale, because it's easier to weigh things, also more accurate. And the awesome thing about weighing stuff is that you can ideally dirty far fewer bowls. So, and measuring cups and all of that good stuff.
Okay, I'm ready. I have
So let me move this out of the way.
okay.
All right, so we've got the 2 sticks of butter in the mixer
Yes.
already. And we're gonna move the camera at some point so that you can see inside of the mixer, because it's gonna be kind of important. And now we need to put in the sugars. So start, the 3 sugars are right here.
Okay.
You'll start with granulated sugar. So get that small bowl with the spatula on top, and you want to put in 100 grams of granulated sugar. Everything we're gonna weigh is in grams today. Make it.
Because the metric system is better.
Rules.
Okay, 100 grams.
100 grams. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these 3 sugars in, and like I said, we're gonna cream them together. And so
What is creaming?
creaming is basically when you get the fat that you're gonna use and the sugar that you're gonna use, and you just mix them together so that they're smooth.
Do I put these in?
Put it in. Yeah, go ahead and put it in. And then you're gonna do 220 grams of the light brown. So the golden brown is the light brown. You may have to open that up all the way. I made a terrible decision when I did that. It's very difficult to use. You can rip that top off too.
Oh, this thing I can do.
Yeah,
No.
because you won't be able to.
Okay, I'm not gonna do that. Alright, I'm gonna just
Rip it
very
open.
carefully so that you give me the scissors actually, so I don't rip this
You
one
don't
out.
rip it all everywhere. So we're gonna put these the 3 sugars in and cream it together with the butter. And maybe we can show you that too, because it's really kind of cool to see, is that the butter and the sugar start to actually melt together. 220 grams. They start to melt together, and they kind of emulsify. And that makes a really good base for adding your eggs and flour. One of the reasons these cookies are so good is because, one of the reasons these cookies are so good is because they have a lot of air that's put into them as you are mixing. And so it's really important that we get as much air into it as possible. That's another reason that you use the paddle. What's that?
I never realized how much sugar is in these.
Oh, it's
Look at
terrible for you.
This is so
Like,
much sugar.
do
Okay.
not share these with people. If you make them big, like the big cookies like we're doing, don't eat them on your own. You will die.
Don't listen to her. Eat a whole cookie.
It's not healthy. It's so much sugar. It's so much sugar, y'all.
Okay. So I'm gonna take this.
Here, I'll do that.
No, I got it. I got
Okay.
it. It's got this little sticky thing that's really cool. So then I'm gonna fold this.
Ah, that's cool.
You don't need the scissors again, sorry. And now we'll do 110 grams of the dark brown sugar. And so this is the one that tastes almost a little sour. It's sweet, but there's like this acidic taste to it, which is really cool. It has that kind of caramel flavor, more so than either of the other two sugars.
I want to taste this. I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
Oh, I
Yeah.
see what you mean. So it's like,
sharp.
yeah, like deeper, if that makes sense. Like it's more complex.
Yeah. And so this 110 grams, just as a reminder, it helps to make the flavor of the cookie a little bit deeper.
110.
So 110. So a lot of times when you have chocolate chip cookies or any sweet, one of the things, like one of the problems is that they are too sweet. They become so sweet that you can't enjoy them. And so even though this has a tremendous amount of sugar and it is extremely sweet, it has a depth of flavor that I think is really nice. So that it has like richness and not just sweetness, if that makes sense.
You did a bad job.
It's okay,
I
don't
know.
worry about it. And then, so now we are at the stage where we can mix all these together. And how you'll want to start this is on low. So
Okay, so let me actually move this a little bit. All right, so we've got.
and we'll probably have to talk really loud because this is
Yeah,
not
it's gonna
quiet.
get really loud. So we've got the mixer here, so I crank it up.
Crank it up. And now we're gonna start it
low?
on low, so just go like 1 or 2 up. And actually, it might be good to start showing what that looks like because they're
Okay.
actually gonna change quite a bit.
So I'm just gonna play cameraman here for a second. Let's get over here. And so yeah, we've cranked it up, and then I'm gonna turn it to you said 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
And so it is going to look like nothing's happening.
I can share the recipe. I don't know if they can hear me.
Yeah, the mic's here, so let me.
We don't need to watch. You probably don't need to watch it the whole time, but you're gonna cream these together for quite a while. So you can see that it's all separated now. The individual, the butter, pieces of butter, and the sugar. You'll wanna get it so that. Wait until the butter starts to break down a little bit, and then slowly increase the speed. You want to make sure that it's extremely well mixed together. So right now, you could probably increase the speed a little bit if you wanted.
What do I want to increase it to?
Just try one up from where it is now. This has a tendency to like go everywhere if you're not careful. Yeah. So. It's okay. If you've got the KitchenAid, a lot of times they come with a shield, so you can also put the shield on, and that'll help contain it a little bit. Turn it back up, see if that, yeah. There you go.
And this is cool because it's got this
Yeah,
spouty deal,
yeah.
so we can actually pour stuff in.
And so now you can see that the butter is starting to break apart, right? So the sugar is starting to help break it down and mix it all together.
Okay, so let me ask a question that Nick.
Again, another one.
So a question that Nikki has and that I also have is like, why wouldn't you just melt the butter?
So that is a really good question, and I'll give you as good of an answer as I have, which is when you melt butter, it changes the structure of the butter, and so when it gets cold again, it doesn't solidify in the same way.
It separates.
It separates and then sets differently, and you don't want that to happen. So by putting in cold butter, you're keeping it all together. And we don't actually ever want this to become too warm because part of this recipe includes putting it in the fridge. Someone also asked if there'd be a published recipe, and yeah, I will share the recipe.
Dave asks if your recipe has evolved over time, or was it amazing on day one?
It was really good on day one. I think the only changes I made were cooking time, ingredients that I used. And
Well, okay, that could be like the whole recipe. So, what do you mean by?
Yeah, that's fair. This isn't done.
I know. I'll pull it back out. But I figured we
so
got a minute.
I changed it a little bit. So I changed the cooking time a little bit based on the size of the cookies. I cook them a little bit longer. I form them in squares, not in balls, which we'll show you, which changes how they bake. I also add salt at the end, and I only use chocolate chips. There's a couple variations that you can do on it that you put in different types of chocolate, which is what Tico does, and I don't do that because I don't like the texture. So I did change it a little bit based on my own preferences. So you can hear that noise. I hope you can hear me. You can hear that noise, and that is the mixer just like really going for it.
This is wild. Let me grab the camera again because this is like, it's a whole different beast now. So if you remember, it looked all granular. There was that sugar in there. Now it actually kind of looks like a dough. So the butter and the sugar have actually combined.
Yep.
That's wild. Okay.
And so now we can put the eggs in.
Is this so this is what you would consider to be creamed?
This is
like when it
I would
starts to look
consider
like
this
dough.
to be creamed, and you can tell because I don't know where the butter starts or butter ends and sugar begins. It's all one thing. And once it's all one thing, now you can say,
got it.
Okay. And
Do
if
I keep this on?
You don't want to keep it on for right now. We'll get back to it later.
Okay.
But like when you touch it, like look at that. It's like it's dough.
It looks like dough.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna hand you this. I'm gonna put the camera back up.
And so now get 2 eggs out. A lot of times you'll hear recipes call for room temperature eggs. This one doesn't specifically say that. I always just get them out of the fridge because I forget. And it seems to be fine. I'm probably doing it wrong, but it works every time. So there's that.
Okay,
so you'll need 2 eggs.
2 eggs.
It does make it sound like my mixer is suffering. It hasn't given up on me yet.
I mean, so this is one of those things where like we are not a like a kitchen gadget family. We don't have. Oh no.
Yeah, I know. There's only the one left. I should have transferred it over.
Okay, here's a second can of eggs. So we're not a kitchen gadget family. Like we don't have a ton of different gadgets around, and the ones that we get tend to be like workhorses. So we use this mixer for just about everything, and then like, and because of that, we also we invested in a high quality one because I feel like that is. I'm very much of the like buy once, buy right mindset. Like if I know that it's a thing I need and I know it's a thing I'm going to use, you should buy the one that's good, because if you buy the one that's $100 cheaper and then it breaks in 6 months, then you have to buy another cheap one, or you have to eventually buy the expensive one anyways.
And I've had this for several years, and
although
it sounds like it's dying,
This is the
works.
professional grade, right? Yeah.
I don't know. It's the bigger one.
It says professional on it, so I'm going to assume yes.
I guess it is.
This is the KitchenAid Professional 600.
I'm glad you like the muffins. Johnny's talking about I put in a blueberry or apple spice muffin recipe from another one of my friends who is a phenomenal baker. It was like her childhood muffin recipe. No. So, this is the professional grade 6 quart. Professional
yes, 6
600.
quart.
Yeah.
575 watts.
It's got this big old lever on it.
Yeah.
Pasta thing or a grinder thing.
Oh yeah, so this is also what I use to grind meat for the burgers, which at some point in the future we'll do a stream
Are we getting
where.
paid for this amazing ad we're giving?
Man, I wish.
Like
KitchenAid.
what a.
Where you at?
I have a list of other things and attachments I would like to get. So again, the point of this mixing is to get as much air into the dough as possible. So we've stopped it obviously so you could kind of stop and see what it looks like. And now we're at the stage where we want to add liquids. So our liquid in this case is just going to be the eggs, correct? And because we want to make sure that we are getting as much air into it as possible, we want to, don't hand me those, we want to keep the mixer going.
Okay.
So it can be
the higher-
on like, no, on 1. And now we'll crack the eggs in one at a time.
Should we pop that out? It looks like it's stuck in the paddle.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. You want to stop it? So Jason made a good point, which is that this is stuck. The dough is stuck.
Here, let me show what I mean.
Yeah.
If you look inside here, you see how all of the dough is stuck in the paddle, so I'm just gonna knock that loose.
Yeah. You want to get your spatula at this point.
So
it's
this,
gonna help you.
you have opinions on spatulas, so why don't you talk about it for a minute?
I do. I have opinions on everything, actually. Ask me sometime. I'll tell you what I think. Or don't. And I'll still tell you. No, I'm just kidding. Spatulas, I do have a lot of opinions. So, first opinion, which some of you probably already know, is that you should have a different spatula for your different cooking adventures. If you are baking, so anything with doughs, sugars, yeasts, you have a spatula that you use only for baking and a spatula that you use only for cooking. The spatula that touches the meat and other cooking things like, I don't know, bacon fat should never touch your baking spatula because this is technically a porous material.
Should I crack eggs into this?
No, you crack it directly in.
I thought you said not to do that.
I said don't do both at the same exact time.
Okay,
You can crack it in.
one-handed egg crack, you
Yeah.
ready?
Oh. And that's how we got shell everywhere. No, it was good. It was a good crack. So you want to crack the egg.
Do I do the other one now?
No, let it get incorporated. And if it starts, so you want the egg to incorporate on low first. Not fully, just mostly. And if the dough is getting stuck again, which it probably will because you just put in like 8 million pounds of sugar, just try to knock it out while keeping it moving. But you're doing okay actually. It's knocking out itself. So once the first egg is kind of incorporated, go ahead and put in the second. You're good. Yeah, don't put meat flavor in my cookies. Exactly. Nobody wants that. It's not good. We have like 2 silicone spatulas. One is only for baking and one is only for cooking. The one that is for cooking now used to be my favorite baking spatula until Jason used it for meat. And now it cannot be used for baking anymore. Baking cookies are not as good as you might think. Okay, so now we are mixing in the eggs. And this is a fantastic point to show what it looks like inside, inside the bowl, because this is about to change drastically. And you need to know what it looks like to begin with to know what you're looking for. So you can see that the egg, like now the dough is more watery because we've added the egg, right? So super great. All right, we're going. In a lot of recipes, you would think, I'm ready to add flour now, and you would be sorely mistaken. If you do not get enough air into this dough, it is not going to rise or caramelize or do the things that you want it to. So this is just the beginning. Now we're going to...
This is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning. We're now going to mix this progressively higher for up to 10 minutes, and it will change drastically. It's super cool to see. By the end, we'll have it'll turn to a different color, a different texture, and almost be like a mousse.
Like a moose?
Like a moose. It's so cool. Like not the animal.
Like a
moose. The dessert. It'll be very light and fluffy.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn this
Go
up.
for it. During this stage, not do it again. That's good for a minute. During this stage, you may need to stop it every once in a while to make sure that the dough gets. Use your spatula to get dough on the sides back into the bowl.
So you like this?
Off the paddle.
Yeah. What's off the back here?
Yeah.
Okay.
But keep going. You can put it up progressively onto high. As long as Yeah, as long as the dough isn't coming out. Just do it 1 or 2 notches at a time, not all at once. There you go.
Oh my God. We have a request for your mousse again.
So you can even see now how it's starting to change.
This is so this is probably gonna like ruin this for you, but it kind of looks like peanut butter now.
Well, thanks for taking everything I love and making it terrible. I don't like peanut butter. So
Okay, so should I turn? It's only at 6 now.
you shouldn't turn it up yet. You should turn it off and get that. Start incorporating this dough on the inside of the paddle. Here, and can I help you? Do you
Yeah.
care? No. I mean, I'm gonna lower this.
Oh yeah, do the thing. Here, why don't you hold the camera for a second so that I
probably
can
good.
focus.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Oh, I'm bad at this.
What did you do?
Nothing.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm poking
Yes,
out
Nikki,
this-
peanut butter is gross. I don't know. I don't. I'm just monitoring the chat. I don't like peanut butter. I don't understand people's obsession with it, and their desire to like take chocolate, an amazing thing, and totally ruin it by like, oh, let's add this to it. That'll definitely make it worse. So try to get
Yeah, but ask
all
her about peanut butter M&Ms.
it's because it's not real peanut butter. It's because it's some type of chemical peanut butter imitation.
It's because you're a monster, is what it is.
David, KitchenAids are really good. I have had this KitchenAid for several years and never had a problem with it. And they are pretty, they're quite
Sturdy?
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, I
I really
we
like
put this
'em.
thing through its paces. We've beat the crap out of it.
So he's taken all the dough off of the paddle now and is trying to get
Just
it
not-
off of the
yeah,
spatula too.
Not lose a bunch of dough in the spatula.
Are your hands clean or no?
Yeah, I washed them.
You can always just use your finger to get
Well,
extra
then it's
off.
gonna be on my finger. Like, I don't think it's gonna come off. Like, it's.
Okay.
I think we're okay. Let me do
Yeah.
one of these.
So what we're trying to do is just get everything back in the bowl so that he can
Okay.
put
now
it back
taste
up
test.
to high. So, okay, so he's taste testing it, and you might notice right now there's actually still some sugar grains in it, huh?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so by the time you're done, there won't be. Very cool.
Very cool.
All right.
All right.
No,
so
stop
I'm gonna-
thinking about eating it and just keep going. Don't do that. Absolutely not.
Okay, so just back up.
Yep, back up.
Do you grade it, or do you just go right back? To where you
I
were?
go back to where I was to begin with. All right. So we've got a few more minutes of this. You want to put that spatula over here. And we can maybe start measuring out the flour and stuff while we wait for this to finish. This is going to progressively get more and more light and fluffy and a lighter color as well. You want to put this back and then we'll
Okay,
come
let's
back to it.
put this back up.
So you can leave this mixing for quite a while. 10 minutes, a little bit more, it's okay. You want to get a lot of air into it, and you don't need to be worried about it. If you think to yourself, it's going really fast and I'm a little worried that it's too much, just lower it a couple notches, like lower the speed a couple notches. Put it on maybe 4. On 4.
Oh, take it down.
And, give it some time, but you're good right now. And you can also, if you're brave, scrape the sides very quickly to make sure that it stays incorporated. If that's not working for you,
It's not
turn
working.
the thing off
Okay.
and incorporate it again. Yeah. All right. So do that one more time. And then we'll start measuring out the flour. So the flour is obviously one of the last things to go in, along with all of the other.
I don't know that that's obvious. I have no idea how to do this.
Did I say obvious?
You did.
Oh, well, the flour is one of the last things to go in, along with the baking soda, baking powder, all that good stuff.
All that jazz.
All the stuff that makes an actual cookie. Because right
I
now
mean, we could
it's
just eat
butter
this
and
butter
eggs
sugar slurry.
and sugar.
I don't know if I'd even be mad about
I
it.
mean, I'm telling you, by the time it's done, it is like a little mousse dessert, a little sugary mousse dessert.
Okay, I'm gonna use my finger this time. Try to get
A little bit more off and try to get the inside of that paddle too. The paddle is kind of hard to clean. I don't have a good solution for you other than,
Give it to me when you're done and I'll eat it all.
yeah, that.
That tends to
And
work
getting
pretty
a
well.
spatula that is like a silicone spatula that's real bendy,
Yeah.
that helps.
The flexibility of the spatula actually makes a huge difference, so it's well worth the investment. And they're not very expensive.
Oh, when the camera moves, they lose the feed.
What? Oh no. The whole feed? Can you see now? Did we just break the whole thing? Unchecking low latency fix. I don't think I can do that on the fly though, can I?
I don't know if they can hear you.
Can y'all hear us? Did we break the whole thing?
I think it's broken.
Are we down? Did we break the whole thing? Okay, we're all good.
So Jason, what
Yes.
we can do is just take it out of here and put it
Yeah,
out.
we'll do that.
So we're gonna keep mixing this. I'm sorry that it's loud. And then, he'll measure out the flour and the rest of the stuff, so.
And just to reiterate, you are planning on putting this recipe up somewhere?
Yeah, I'll share the recipe. And it's got all of the instructions on like getting the air into it and stuff.
One thing that you didn't, that we didn't talk about that I think is important to call out is the butter.
Mhm.
What kind of butter do you use?
I mean, we have Tillamook butter. It's unsalted. Don't use salted because you're gonna add salt later. And when you bake with salted butter, you can get your salt ratios off. I also feel like it performs a little differently. So if you're baking, just use unsalted butter. We only use unsalted butter and just add salt as we want.
Yeah,
As you've seen,
I think as
It's
we,
a very healthy household with the amount of salt we put on that.
as we cook, like
We're gonna die.
or we're gonna live forever. Okay, so before I turn this back on, let's walk through.
I can clean up and walk you through it.
Yeah,
You
so
wanna
tell me what you need.
So
we
we're
need
gonna-
flour,
we're
baking
gonna
soda,
do
and baking powder.
flour, put that on the scale.
Okay.
You wanna come over here actually, cause I think it's easier to see over there.
Okay.
So come over here. So we're gonna do flour, baking soda, baking powder, not the same thing. Do not mix them up. Triple check your recipe. If you don't, you'll be so sad that you did all this work and have flat cookies that taste like metal.
It's not great.
It's not good. Alright, so to start, we have, sorry, I lost my spot. 384 grams of all-purpose flour, so start with that one.
Okay. And then what? Because I'm just gonna turn this on, so if you read through
Oh,
it,
yeah.
then that way if people can't hear us yelling
Right.
at each other.
So it's gonna be 384 grams of flour, and then a teaspoon of sea salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a quarter teaspoon of baking soda. So that's all gonna go in this bowl. Then you can use a fork or something to just kind
A
of
whisk!
or whisk to mix it together before you put it in here. And then we're gonna turn the mixer back on so that
So
we
we're
can
still
keep whipping.
still floofing this.
Whip, whip.
Yeah, we want this to get airier, and it really is starting to look really good here. Okay, so 384. So I've got a bowl on a scale. You can see the scale here, and I'm just I've zeroed it out. So I'm gonna add 384 grams.
Oh,
Oh my God, is this exactly right?
yeah, knock the rest of it out.
This bag had exactly 384 grams of flour in it.
Awesome.
Okay, so I have my flour, and then I need my teaspoons here. So I need a quarter teaspoon, you said?
Of baking soda.
Okay, so here's my quarter teaspoon and then a regular teaspoon.
Yep.
Okay. So we did this thing. We got our measuring cups, and then we got these like janitor's key rings, and we just used those to hold them together. It really makes a huge difference.
I turned it up a little bit just to get some more air in there as we're waiting.
I'm drying these off to make sure that none of the baking powder or baking soda sticks to them. Because we just washed all this up before we started.
Quarter teaspoon.
Quarter teaspoon.
Baking soda.
Soda. Got it.
I'm glad you double checked.
Okay. Quarter teaspoon baking soda.
Yep. 1 teaspoon baking powder.
Powder.
1 teaspoon salt. And
Okay.
now use a fork or a whisk to mix it together. You just wanna, the reason you do this is just so that everything gets incorporated, and as you're doing it, it goes into the mix.
I'm just trying to make sure that like everything's distributed, right? So we don't have a pocket of baking soda, which would be an unpleasant bite.
Okay. So, a few things. How do you know when this is done? And I'm gonna.
I thought you were asking me. I was like,
I'm gonna walk you.
it looks like this.
I'm gonna walk you through it. So, you can turn it off actually. So,
Should I crank this down?
yeah, crank it down. And then, now, we had it on 6, which is what it was on beforehand as well. And you'll see that it's changed color now. It's really light and fluffy.
Kind of looks like, I don't know if y'all can, I hope that I've got this in
Can you
frame.
see that?
But so it's very like it does look like a mousse. It almost looks like cake frosting now.
And when you go to, like if you, what am I trying to say? When you use your spatula or your finger to kind of feel it, it feels very light and airy as well. It's now a lighter color than when it started. If you remember, it was like kind of a darker tan, and now it's a lot lighter.
You asked about the salt. This is the salt we use. You could also use like Diamond Crystal or Morton's. Although I have read that like Morton's and Diamond Crystal are really intensely different. So adjust your recipes accordingly.
So we'll pull this down from the sides again. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
And then I pull it, push it down from the sides, and then get it off the spatula as well, and then kind of give it one final mix just to make sure everything is good, and then you will put in the flour. Start putting in the flour.
And
The
you do
flour
that while it's on?
You'll do it while it's on, yeah.
Okay. So I'm
It'll
just knocking
just be
everything
easier.
off of the...
My, hi Leslie! Hi! My friend made it for me for my birthday, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. She sewed it. Yeah. It's the only apron I have. It's very nice. It was nice of her. So that's good. So now we'll kind of turn on the mixer one more time just to mix it all together and before we put the flour in.
Yeah, and so I can taste too. There's still a little bit of like sugar granularness, but it's not nearly as grainy as it was when we started. So it's like, it really did like change the whole consistency.
And if you, so like yesterday when I did another batch because we're gonna pull some out here.
Doing magic.
I let it run. I let the mixer run for I think 15 minutes on the 6th level setting, so really high, and it turned almost. It was like really, really light in color, like a light brown. And it did look like a mousse, and there was no sugar left into it. So, and those cookies came out good. So like, you have a leeway here. You don't need to worry about over whipping it. You need to worry about not doing it enough.
But is there a risk that like if you let it go too long, the butter will melt or anything like that?
If you let it go too long, the longer you let this run, the more heat you're putting in the butter. So it's going to be harder to handle, and you won't be able to handle it immediately. So yesterday, and I think today too, just kind of looking at it. The dough will be really wet.
Should I preheat, by the way?
Yeah, we should. So, I'm preheating the oven to 350 because we will be able to bake today.
Make sure there's a cast iron in there.
I don't think we should do that.
I think we should test it. We have 2 skillets, let's do it 2 ways. Yes, science! Okay.
Good, a test.
So we're going to do, we're gonna cook these cookies in our little cast iron skillets. So I've got one of them already in the oven, so that's going to be preheated. This one is not, so I'm going to leave this one out. So what I believe.
It'll still get hot.
Okay, fair. So what I believe is that a preheated cast iron is going to really caramelize the bottom of the cookie and give me a lot of like crunchy caramelized bits that I love, and that won't overcook the center of the cookie. So I'll still have like a nice fluffy, chewy cookie in the middle. Marisa is not convinced that will work, and I think she's wrong. So we're just gonna do a side-by-side taste test. We'll cook 2 cookies, they'll be the same weight and shape, both cooked in a cast iron for the same amount of time, or we might adjust times depending.
Yeah, we might have to adjust the time.
But basically we're gonna cook them the same way, with the only difference being that the cast iron is preheated on one to see which one gets a better cookie, and it will be me, and we'll all applaud.
So it might be, I don't know.
Okay, so now that we've got this, you said turn it back on, and then we're going to start adding flour?
Yeah, and
Should I put this on?
I would, yeah, it'll make it easier. So we've got our flour mixture that I hope you can see. He's putting the guard back on. This has all of the remaining dry ingredients, except for the chocolate chips, which we'll add at the end. And the guard this guard just helps so that stuff doesn't splatter. When you are mixing this dough, you want to put the flour in until it's just mixed. So what that means is you don't want streaks of flour in your dough, but you also don't want to keep it. You don't want to keep it going for so long that it becomes tough. Because if you overwork the flour in the dough, it's not going to taste as good. You'll kind of end up with a cakier cookie. So if you want that, you can do it. But I don't want that, so I'm not doing it. I am worried that he's gonna wreck these. I am actually worried that he's gonna wreck these cookies. They'll be good.
They will be. Mine's gonna be better, and then you're gonna be so mad.
You know, if it's better, we've learned something, and that's exciting. So.
Hold on. I don't know why the Slack is even on this computer. Get out of here.
Okay.
Get out of here.
He's turning something off.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Science.
All right. So.
Do I want to turn it to? Is that not gonna won't that just explode everywhere? We should trade places. Trade places for science, okay.
What are you doing?
I'm coming over here so that this is safe. See? I don't want it to explode out this way.
Oh. Okay, so then you'll I'm gonna be on this side.
Yeah, you just gotta tell me where it goes.
So I'm gonna put this onto 1.
Okay.
And you can just start funneling it in there. And you'll see that the flour.
Should I go faster or slower?
You're good. I'm upping the speed as more flour gets in and gets incorporated. Slow down a little bit, let it catch up. You want to give the flour enough time to kind of catch up and get incorporated. And another thing that I typically do is I get halfway done with the flour, use my spatula to get it off the side, and then put in the remaining half.
Okay, so now I can see like the flour is in the dough. It doesn't look like a pile of flour anymore. So I'm adding more.
And you want to keep the speed low, or else you're going to get a big old cloud of flour right in your face.
Which I don't want.
And I have done so many times. It's very uncomfortable. That's good.
You want to do a scrape and then?
Do a scrape. And
Okay.
because you're adding the flour, it's sticking to the spatula, or
Okay, let's
to the
tilt.
paddle.
Let's tilt and show. So I'm gonna lower this down, and you can see now, like.
That's half the flour.
Yeah, we've got half the flour in, and it's incorporating. There's a little bit of flour around the edges, but you can see that it's starting to like clump up, and because it's all stuck to the spatula in the middle, or the paddle in the middle, there's like less floury cookie dough in the middle. So I'm just gonna pop all this out. Just get that off.
And get the flour off the top of the spatula too.
Get that off there. Okay. Just really scrape it all into the bottom of the bowl.
And I know this is taking, like, since we're showing you this, it's
We're
taking
going slow,
longer.
yeah.
This is actually a really quick recipe to make. It's one of the quickest cookie recipes I have, and it's not hard.
Well, the nice thing about this is like the stuff that's taking time appears to be being patient and letting the dough
But the cool,
mix long.
yeah, and the cool thing is, like, while you're letting all that, the butter and sugar come together, and while you're letting that egg get incorporated and you're waiting and mixing it, you can do other stuff. Like, I typically measure out the flour during that time. I can clean up the other stuff that I've used, the other bowls. So it's an easy thing to do while you're working on cleaning up and stuff.
And I think that's this is probably one of the biggest superpowers that we've developed as cooks, is to clean as we go. Because otherwise, cooking is such a nightmare, because it's like, you've got all this setup, and then you're cooking, and then you make this meal, and then at the end, your kitchen is a disaster, and like, it's, you're like, oh, I'm too tired, I don't want to clean this up, and then you never want to cook again, because it's like, oh, that took us 6 hours last time. So as we are cooking, we'll just like wash a dish here, we'll do all that kind of stuff, and what we found is that the amount of cleanup goes way down, because we're kind of like parallel tasking. It's like, oh, I'm doing this, well, I have a couple minutes while that stirs, let me clean these bowls, and then then you're done. Like, you finish, and you basically get to eat and clean the plates that you were eating off of, and that's about it. Okay, I'm ready.
Alright, so the last half of the flour is going to go in, and we'll mix that together so that there's no streaking. Go ahead.
Streaking!
And then we'll be able to add the chocolate chip cookies.
Chocolate chip.
Or chocolate chips, sorry. I always just want to put it all together. You can go faster.
She's like, dear God, go faster. We've done it!
The flour is just incorporated. Now we'll want to use the spatula to get.
So you can see when we say just incorporated, like, there's no flour left, but we stopped as soon as we stopped seeing flour.
And so we'll use the spatula again to clean off the to clean off the paddle, and then just check and make sure that there's not like some flour that somehow got missed. And you'll want to scrape the sides down and everything, because at this point you're ready to put in the chocolate chips.
Okay. I feel like I'm doing this in slow motion.
I do too.
Positive encouragement there, Coach.
I was agreeing with you. It might be easier if you take the paddle off too. Go up and then turn and then down.
There it is. Alright.
It takes time to clean the paddle off.
I mean, it's got this
it's
really
a
cool
weird
shape, right? But it's very
of inconvenient.
And
to-
it's so sticky. Just like, there's no good way to do it.
Alright, so we're getting close.
My friend Leslie, the one that gave me the muffin recipe, when she bakes, she just like takes it and hammers the paddle onto the side of the bowl.
That's the way I would do it.
It's so loud. Works though, I guess.
Oh, it does work. That's pretty effective actually. Okay, so that is probably as good as I'm gonna be able to get it. So let me scrape off.
That is not.
Okay, here, go ahead. Do you know?
No.
Oh, you're getting in there with a spoon. See, you didn't tell me I could use other tools.
Oh, you can use other tools. Sometimes a spoon is easier because it's metal. Stop. Stop.
You gotta check. I already stayed.
Is it good?
Always be tasting.
Always be tasting.
Yeah, that is delicious. It's like what I love about this recipe is that it manages somehow. We haven't added anything savory yet, but it already has a savory note, and I think that's such a interesting thing. And like when I say savory, it's like you know when you get something that's got that like really buttery depth. And I know there's 2 whole sticks of butter in this, so like that makes sense. But like,
Where would all that buttery depth come from? Oh,
wait, are you done? Are you done? Oh, we don't use that to mix the cookies in?
no.
Oh, I was misunderstanding what happened next. Okay, I would have done a better job. had I
So,
known you were-
take that off and show what it came out to. So this is
Okay.
with the flour.
So this is with the flour. This is our dough, and you can see kind of the texture here. It's like it's still sticky, but it is not. It's not like moussey anymore. It's not like frosting anymore.
I'm gonna move this.
Are we done with that?
Yep.
Good job. I thought I was gonna do that.
It's heavy.
Okay.
The only problem with those KitchenAid mixers is they,
We're legit heavy.
yeah, they are extremely heavy. Okay, so now we're gonna add the chocolate chips. So this is where you can kind of do what suits you. So what I like to do is I mix these half and half. So the milk chocolate and the semi-sweet chips, I mix those half and half.
Okay.
But
How many?
I'm gonna tell you, the recipe that I like to use, you use a cup and a half of chips. So you just do half and half of semi-sweet to milk chocolate. The other thing that you can do if you want is to do a cup. I'm just ignoring you and hoping you'll stop. Is do a cup of them in this dough, and then get your favorite chocolate bar and cut it into slivers and put it in at the end. It's gonna have a different texture because you don't bake that last group of chocolate. That's how Tico.
Why don't you do that? So this is actually a question that I've had. If I really like let's say my favorite chocolate in the world is I don't know, Mass Brothers, something that I've had at like Whole Foods or whatever.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't I just chop that up and put it in this chocolate chip cookie?
It won't melt properly. So I don't know. I don't know the science behind it, but like it won't melt the way that you expect it to melt because of how it's being put together. And I don't know why. It becomes really oily and gross. So
Like so maybe it's kind of like butter, like it separates.
yeah, it just
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
work right. So you need like baking chocolate. But if you want to add chocolate at the end, just like from a regular bar of chocolate, you can. You'll just be individually placing those slivers into the cookie. I don't like that personally because I don't like the texture of it. That's just not my jam. But
Well, and the thing
if
that's
you like
interesting,
it, you should do it.
and I think what's really cool about this is what we have now before we put anything in it. This is more or less the perfect cookie base. So if you wanted to put M&Ms in this, or if you're one of those weirdos who likes like nuts or something, you could put
M&Ms or nuts or chocolate chips or really whatever into this, and it's gonna be a great cookie.
Yeah, it's a good base.
So I would honestly, I think you could just cook these straight up with nothing in them, and they'd be great cookies.
Just
But
be
they're
a sugar butter cookie.
yeah.
It'd be real strong.
Well,
So-
you're literally about to add
I
more
know,
sugar
I
to
know.
it.
The chocolate.
All right, okay,
Takes
okay.
it
Let's
away.
focus up. How many of these do I want?
Yes, I need to focus up. Do half a cup of those, or you can do like 3/4 and 3/4, however you want to do it. So you're gonna measure these out and then pour them in, and then we'll fold them into the
How do you-
batter manually.
How do you prefer I open these? You want to just cut
Cut
it?
'em.
Yeah. Okay. So 3/4.
Oven's ready, so that's good. Yeah, so we will, so you can just dump those in.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
just
that's
dump them in.
a little under, it's about 3/4 of a cup. Dump those in. Then I've got these ones in 3/4 here as well.
3/4, yeah. And then, the other cool thing about these is that they're different sizes. So the milk chocolate chips are bigger, and the semi-sweet ones are tiny, which is really cool because they kind of melt differently too, which is nice.
Yeah, so you can see here, I'll just do a quick side by side. These are our chocolate chips. So this one is milk, and this one is semi-sweet.
All right.
And just mix them
So
up.
now you'll use your spatula to just fold them in.
Fold.
Yep.
Okay, so folding, I've learned, is like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to come up from.
I've clearly learned.
You come up from the bottom, and then push it back over the top. And the reason you do it this way is just because the dough is obviously extremely sticky, and you want to try to mix the chocolate chips in as well as you can, so that you don't get a cookie that has no chocolate in it, which is real sad. It's real sad when you think you're about to bite into a chocolate chip cookie, and it's just
a cookie.
a regular old
Jeez.
no chocolate cookie.
Shivas. Alright. So this is,
And it doesn't have to be perfect, but try to make sure that it's
that seems pretty well
pretty
incorporated.
well
Do you want me
incorporated.
to?
And get it off the spatula. Okay, so now
Most of
here.
this.
you can use a spoon. That's easier to get it off the spatula and clean it. If you just use like a regular old spoon, that'll typically go faster for you.
You end up with a spoonful of cookie
Do
dough
not-
instead of a spatula.
Do
full of
not
cookie
eat
dough.
that. Put that back in. Don't. Put it in the thing. Put it in. Okay? Oh my god. Anyway,
Always be tasty.
so now we're gonna cover it up and put it in the fridge. So what you've done is basically you heated up the butter a bunch, and now you want to get it to solidify again.
Oh my god. it's
So
good.
you'll put it in the fridge anywhere from 4 to 24 hours. You can do it for a whole day. So like if you make these in the afternoon one day and you're like, I don't want to deal with this, it's fine. Just throw it in the fridge in the bowl, and you can come back to it the next day. You do want to let it solidify up, and my suggestion to you would be to put this into the fridge. So there's a couple things. Put it into the fridge for a couple hours. So you could even do like 2 hours, and then form it, and then put it back in the fridge. And that way you can actually put them in a bag so that you can freeze them for later. Or if you want to bake all of them, put them in the fridge for at least 4 hours. But if you're thinking to yourself, well, I want to have cookies later, let them set up by being in the fridge for 2 hours. Come back, form them, put them back in the fridge for another 2 to 4 hours, and then just put them in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer. That's what we do. because that way I can always have a fresh cookie.
And this is actually like, I think maybe one of the most important lessons that we've learned, or I guess that you've learned and I've benefited from, has been to not cook all of the cookies at once, because the dough freezes super well. So what, through the magic of television, what just broke?
Nothing. I put the thing.
Oh, okay. We have
Hold that up because I
ready cookies.
not be good.
So this, these are 4-ounce cookies, and so you can see, like, these are big cookies. These is like what you would get in a coffee shop. And I am a huge fan of this size because, like I said, it lets the...
They are huge.
They're
Share
huge.
them.
They're huge. But what we're going for is a cookie that will cook crispy on the outside and still be tender and like soft on the inside.
So if you're like me and you don't like big cookies, because I don't prefer the big cookies, honestly.
Because you're wrong.
I don't see the benefit of having them be so big. They're not my favorite, and I don't. So if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. These are 4 ounces. They're huge. So 4 ounces of this dough is going to get you 12 cookies.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do them 2-ish to 2.5 ounces, and you'll get roughly 24 cookies. I think if you do 2.5 ounces, cookies that are 2.5 ounces, you will get exactly 24 cookies.
That math doesn't work.
I know it doesn't work, but when we did it last time with 4 ounces, we had 3 ounces of cookie dough left.
Still doesn't?
I don't know. Anyway, you can do them smaller, is what I'm attempting to say,
But
and
you-
make
yeah,
your dough go further.
And like these
So-
are very good as smaller cookies too. I prefer them as bigger cookies because like when you get the one they spread out to be about this big around.
Mhm.
And that's like what you buy at a coffee shop. And I really truly believe that the reason bakers make big cookies like that is because they're better cookies. Like they have enough mass to set up and cook properly. And that's why I have such strong opinions. on
So
this.
the other thing that you'll see is that they are square.
Yes, please tell me why.
So they're square and not circles. And the reason that we do that is because the edges of the square help as it bakes to make the edges a little bit more crispy. And you'll see this at the end when we show you. You'll get like these almost like folds in the cookie where it melted down and started to bake. And the edges from the square help to actually create those little folds, which make the edges flatter and crispier. We learned that from a cookie shop called Le Gourmand in Toronto. That's how they do their cookies, and they have phenomenal cookies.
Really good cookies.
Yeah. I will share the recipe today, yes.
Okay, so now we have one non-preheated skillet. And you don't need to use a skillet. You can totally cook these on a baking sheet, on parchment paper.
And normally,
really
and
good.
normally we do. Normally I put down parchment paper, I put them on the sheet, or put down the parchment paper, put them on, and then bake them just on this. We wanted to try cast iron today,
because cast iron makes
is
everything
fun.
better.
So
Okay, so we have 2 4-ounce cookies.
one is
One
non-heated.
is not preheated. This one is preheated.
Yep.
And now I'm going to put them both. Just make sure I don't cross those up, burn my hand off. Put those both into the oven at 350. And what did we decide? Was it 20 minutes?
So it was 20 minutes for the last one. So yeah, I would do 20. And I didn't think ahead because we didn't have a baked cookie.
Well, we could have had a baked cookie. It's okay. So what we can do instead is clean a little bit, talk, chat if you want to.
How about you talk and I'll clean, because it makes me super nervous to try to talk.
So what we will do is...
I can talk about this
Yes,
for
do
a
that.
sec.
Yeah.
So these are the cookies that we refrigerated yesterday, put them in a freezer bag, and now I just throw them in here, get all the air out, and then I put them in the freezer. You can cook them right from the freezer. You get a baking sheet, put down your parchment paper, and a lot of times what we'll do is we will have dinner and we'll say, I want a cookie after dinner, because who doesn't? and heat up the oven. Just get 1 or 2, however many you want, and you can have a warm cookie with milk at any point. And let me tell you, it's very nice and very comforting to know that you can do that. I'm not like a stress eater, but my grandma always made cookies, and so it's like a very comforting thing to know that I can have warm cookies and milk. So
I am a stress eater.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Oh. When you bake them, you can pull them right out of the freezer and bake them from the freezer, like I said. Your cooking time might vary, so you'll have to watch it. Typically, it takes around 20 minutes, but you don't have to thaw them first. You can put them into the oven straight from the freezer and they'll taste just fine.
Yeah. And so the smaller they are, obviously, the less time you'll want to cook them. So, adjust accordingly. But, let's see, that'll be our trash pile.
So now
We have the computer is sitting on top of the trash can, so I can't actually throw things away right now.
So we're doing what we typically do, which is just clean while we're waiting. I don't know, talk about something fun.
So who here went to Women to React yesterday? I don't know how long the delay is, so I'm not sure if I'm being ignored or if I'm just waiting for people to have a
I
chance to
can't
respond.
remember, it's a few seconds. Me, Leslie went.
Yes. How was it, Leslie? I got to catch Carolyn Stransky. She was awesome. And I saw a little bit of like some of the fireside chats. But we were playing Dungeons and Dragons yesterday. and that took most of our time. Oh, Maggie's talk.
Yeah, I saw her thing.
Maggie went ahead and broke
good.
the internet yesterday. That was excellent. Okay, so
Maggie's
this,
great.
yeah, Maggie is brilliant. Let's see, just putting that away.
What was your favorite talk, Leslie?
I'm going to assume Maggie's because she just called it out.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but what's up, Joelle? Yeah, so let's see, what else are we gonna do today? I think I'm gonna try to write today, but we had like a big food day yesterday, so we did like that breakfast hash. We did an episode on how we make that breakfast hash. We kind of riffed on that a little bit, and then we also made a leek and potato soup that
I can show you that.
I mean, it's a Tupperware container, but
Hey,
we wanted,
I'm trying here, okay?
we wanted to make ahead stuff. And so we got this. This is actually really cool. It came out. So we basically, this is a bucket of leeks and potatoes and onion. And then you just cook it down with chicken broth until you end up with softened vegetables. And then we threw it in the blender until it went completely smooth.
Hi, Joelle.
Oh, Eve. Yeah, Eve is incredible. But yeah, then what? Then we played Dungeons and Dragons for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We,
I got to turn into a bear,
Oh,
so that was cool. I'm a druid in that game. I would love to be a druid in real life, honestly. It would be cool to be able to turn into an animal. But I got to turn into a bear, killed a bunch of orcs. That was pretty great. I like Dungeons and Dragons. It's a lot of fun. And I'm learning. We use D&D Beyond
and Roll20.
and Roll20, and it's so cool because you can do all of it, online. So each of our friends is in a different state or country, and we're still able to play every weekend, which is really fun.
It's cool because we had games that we used to play when we lived in other places, but they all died when we left because it was this very social thing. Yeah, the games died, and it was this very social thing where we would get together and we would eat food and play the game. And I do miss that part of it. But what's been nice is that we've been able to rekindle these games now that everybody's quarantined.
Yeah.
And so suddenly a game that was completely inaccessible to us because we couldn't get down to Austin, Texas.
is back on and we're playing again. So that's been really nice.
We're just waiting for this to bake. We should have baked one in the intro.
Hindsight is 20/20 on that
Yeah.
one for sure. We thought we were so clever with our movie magic of like having the batch of dough from yesterday.
Well, that sounds fun, Leslie. A custom Mario Kart board game?
What?
That's cool.
That's fascinating.
Oh, I learned about, in Roll20, Jason taught me about macros, which are awesome. So, when you turn into a bear, you've got a bunch of attacks. You get a claw attack and a bite attack, and then you have to roll for the damage. Like, you have to roll for the hit and then roll for the damage. So you can set up this macro in Roll20 that not only rolls it for you, like it rolls the action, it rolls the action and the damage, but then it also gives you like
Well, you built in a zinger.
you build in a zinger. That's what it
Yeah.
was. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, so you basically get like these fill in the blank things. So it's like you roll for whether or not you hit, you roll for your damage, you can like just work in an insult into the middle of it and then like roll for your next attack, and those macros are
They're fun.
it's like the programmer in me is really into it because I keep adding like different layers of complexity to my attacks.
And
macros.
I was not into it until I learned that you could do the zingers. But now when I turn into a bear, when I attack someone, I can scream, "It's bear time, bitches!" which is awesome. I can also turn into a wolf, and so now I'm just gonna scream, "Who let the dogs out?" Yeah, I'm really just there for the zingers, if I'm honest. I will turn into the animal just so that I can roll for the zinger.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is an actual question. Does cooking time vary with cast iron versus a cookie sheet?
Yeah, it does. It does. When we did these last night, they took around 20 minutes. It took around 20 minutes. When I do them on a baking sheet, it usually takes around 15. The other thing is too, it depends on the size of the cookie. So we can, when they come out, and I apologize that we didn't.
I can already see a difference here.
I apologize that we didn't bake them in advance and make this easier for you, but or make it faster. But you will see. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done and what to look for, because eggs and cookies and cakes, all those types of baked goods, they keep baking even after you take them out of the oven a little bit. So you don't want to do what Jason did and wait till they're baked all the way through, because then you'll end up with a hockey puck.
You're a hockey puck. Well, thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that. Watching some Learn with Jason stuff. Yeah, it's been a really fun few weeks on Learn with Jason. Like, just some stellar episodes. Like, really fascinating stuff. We had Matt Perry on to do Framer Motion, so we did some animation in React, which was really amazing.
Oh, I wanted to watch that one.
It's good.
I did the one, on Friday, I saw the one with Anjana for D3. She was
Specifically observable.
Yeah, going through observable, and I was able to like follow along and do the Twitter feed thing that you
the
showed,
emoji race.
which like I do design and research. You know, I don't consider myself a programmer at all, and so I was very happy with myself that I was able to do that. And they have so many interactive charts. It was really cool. I like to do a lot of data visualization stuff, so that was something that I was really interested in.
Oh!
This is salt for the end of the cookie, which we'll talk about too, and Jason nearly broke it. You can't find the salt anywhere else, so I'm glad he didn't. I think he's getting hungry and is about to try to eat breakfast.
Well, I'm just gonna prep for breakfast because we're gonna need to eat, or I'll eat your face. Okay, so then.
I was so excited and very happy with myself when I came up with "It's Bear Time, Bitches." Like, I screamed it in our chat and also out loud. It was so fun. I really like D&D. We play Rogue Trader too, which I also like. They're such different worlds. Like, Rogue Trader is just this intergalactic hellscape where it's like everything that happens is the worst possible thing. We tried to save a planet once, and like played by the rules, did all the things we were supposed to do, and ended up getting the entire planet blown up. It was like this beautiful paradise planet of all of these citizens, and we followed the rules, and then they came in and killed them all. It was awful. But yeah, I really like D&D. I don't know what Jason is doing. What are you looking for?
I'm gonna make eggs, and
Have you lost the eggs?
No, they're here. I was just looking at what I wanted to put in them because there's a bunch of stuff that I want to use. So I'm gonna do. Let's see, we got like 8 minutes left. So I'm gonna bake this bacon, and then I'm gonna saute these up, and we'll do.
You should give them your bacon baking tips that we learned through trial and error.
Ooh,
and
yes.
by we, I mean Jason, because I told him to take them out of the oven. I just have to,
listen.
you know, if
Listen.
it's too peaceful, you know, you get complacent.
Yeah. Do you want to grab the cutting board for me, please?
Really? That one? You want that one? The other one in there. It's under all this stuff.
That's my good cutting board. I like this cutting board.
Can't I get you the other one?
Fine.
Yeah, like, you don't need to make it harder on yourself. What?
Kayla, you're making it harder. Okay, so with bacon, I really like it. There are a couple ways that you can do bacon, and we might do a whole episode on this later because it's kind of fun. But
a bacon episode!
A bacon episode! But so there are a few ways that you can do bacon, and one of the easiest ways is to straight up bake your bacon. And so you can take the bacon bits here. I'm going to make a small pile for our garbage pile over there.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the dinner that Johnny is making.
Ooh,
Homemade chicken fingers with Greek yogurt dressing. Yeah, I'll take that.
Nice.
I can give you our address. Just send it to me.
Oh, you know what else we could do?
What?
We could do we could prep that buttermilk chicken while we wait.
Ooh. I don't want to do that, but you can do that.
I think I will do that because we
That's
need
a
to do
good
it
idea.
anyways.
Finish your bacon.
Yeah, so
Bacon.
so with bacon, if you lay it out on a sheet pan like this, and you bake it at 420 or 425, you know, around that, like basically hot, you get a really, really good flat
You're using all
piece
that
of
bacon?
bacon. Do you not want me to?
I only want 2 pieces.
You only want 2 pieces.
When Jason sees all the bacon, he just sort of puts it all out and thinks.
I just start cooking. But yeah, so let's see, maybe you can help me
What do you
bag
think?
that up, or just we just need to. Okay, so in that case, I'm gonna spread these out a little bit. But so you cook it at 420, and you can cook it for like, I don't know, like 8-ish minutes, and then start looking, because what'll happen is it'll start to look like it's kind of getting done. That's when you pull it, because if you pull it when it looks done, it'll keep cooking into burned bacon.
A roasting rack.
A roast? Yeah, we could put it on a roasting rack. I kind of dig the
Do we have
caramelization
a
off the
roasting
pine.
rack?
We could put one of those racks in there. But no, I actually kind of dig the like contact with the sheet pan actually makes a really nice like caramelization, which I'm into. So and that's a preference thing, right? Like you can get really kind of like flat, crispy bacon. Another way that I've heard of that I keep meaning to try is if you put just a tiny bit of water in, it renders the fat in the bacon before it starts to fry, which means that the bacon actually cooks more evenly, and you get these like plump, flat, kind of almost like fake looking bacon. Like, you know when you go to a restaurant and the bacon looks perfect? It's possible that they're doing that they're rendering the fat before they cook it. We'll just have to do a whole episode on this because it's fascinating.
Oh, that sounds good, that dressing. I love
Salmon
yogurt
burgers.
dressing. Oh, I tried to cook fish the other night. I'm really bad at cooking fish, and I love fish.
Ooh, Dave
It
is
wasn't
recommending
great.
some brown sugar on the bacon.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
You want to try it?
Well, maybe on yours. We have cookies in the oven. It's so much sugar.
Okay, so we need to heat
We gotta wait
Yeah.
for that anyway.
So
We will
we
try
get
that way.
this out of
So-
the way.
the meantime, I'm gonna do the chicken.
This is a very normal thing actually, where we'll clean and then
Prep a bunch
prep
of stuff.
a bunch of stuff. So we have, I can show you. Oh no, I can't show you. Hold on. We were looking at cooking cookbook recipes the other day. We have a buttermilk chicken recipe that's from Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. And it's really easy. He'll walk you through it. But it's one of his favorite chicken recipes.
This
because
is
the skin on it is so crispy.
and it's legit like, so this is one of those things where I feel like this is the perfect chicken recipe because it's the right amount of extraordinarily simple to prepare and unbelievably delicious. Can you get that out just so I can measure the, I think it's just a pint, but I'm not sure. So we have been, since we're in quarantine, we have been ordering from a local butcher. So this is a Mary's chicken that we ordered from Providor, right?
Oh, the other thing about this book that is super cool are these illustrations. I hope they can see this, I never know. So these illustrations are fantastic, and they go through the entire book, and they are little explainers. So one of my favorite types of cookbooks are the ones that show you why they're doing stuff, not just what they're doing. And this is a great one. It also has my favorite diagram, if I can show you. What should I cook? And then it's got like a map of making a decision of what to cook. This is a super cool book. It's very fun. And then she also has flavors of the world so that you can decide like, oh, what do I want? And figure out the spice pairing for them. Anyway, this
That
is
book
a great book.
is absolutely worth the purchase.
Yeah.
There's also, if you like to watch shows on food, there is a series on Netflix called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat that has Samin Nosrat in it, and it's so good. She's also just like, you know when you meet somebody who's like just infectiously happy? Like you watch them and you can just feel how much they love the thing that they're doing? That's Samin.
I know, I already looked at them.
Okay.
They're almost done.
They're getting close. We can see the goodness happening here. All right. So with this, what I'm going to do is, are you looking at the recipe?
I'm trying to find it, yeah.
Do you want to check the table of
I
contents?
did. It had a couple.
It's the buttermilk one. Here. Okay. So. So what we're doing here is we've got, this recipe takes 3 ingredients. It's a chicken, buttermilk, and salt. So,
Is this for you?
yeah, I gotta put this in there. So I'm going to take salt, and we're going to, let's see, we're gonna take the wingtips off, so just go right into the joint here, and just cut right through. Try to do it without taking out. I should use a bigger knife for this. Definitely should have used a bigger knife for that. Okay. And so then go over to this other side, do the same thing. And so we're taking the wingtip off because the wingtip will burn, and we don't want that. So now we'll keep these, put those into our stock bag. Then I'm going to season it generously with salt. And like, generous means generous, especially with a brine like this. So what we're gonna do is,
These are done.
they're done?
Well, one of them is.
Is that the one that was preheated?
It is.
Let me see it. Oh, that looks so good.
So this is the first cookie. This is from the preheated. I don't know if this is high enough. I can
Yeah,
never
I
tell.
think you're good.
This is from the preheated one. So in order to see if it's done, you look at the edges and you see how there's a little bit of light brown caramelization. That's one good sign. And then when I lightly touch it, it should spring back up in the middle a little bit. It should be dented for a second and then kind of rise back.
That is super subtle. Like it's hard for me
It
to
is
spot
extremely hard to see, but you'll know because as you start to, like when you do that with cookies, if it stays completely indented, it's not done, and if it doesn't indent enough, it's overdone. So now, the last thing that I do is put salt on it. So I suggest you do this with all of your baked goods, like sweets. This is vanilla salt, and it's just got little bits of actual vanilla in the salt grains. And so I don't know if people can see it, but it's okay. We just take a pinch of salt and sprinkle it on the top. Try to cover as much area as you can.
And you got to do this while it's hot.
Yeah, you want the salt to kind of melt in, and it gives you a good texture and a little bit of salty bite to it.
And one thing to note too is like this cookie looks like a dome. It's gonna flatten out as it cools.
Yeah, and it'll start to get creases on the edges, like I said.
Should we put it on a cooling rack or do you want to leave it in the cast iron?
It needs a second, I think, and then we can put it on the rack.
Okay, I'll get it rack out.
It's already out. See?
Okay, so with this, what I've done with the chicken is I basically just like coated it in salt, just like three good pinches, and then literally all I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna let this sit for 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of this salt into this. How much? Yeah, 2 cups of buttermilk, so a pint of buttermilk. I'm gonna mix 2 tablespoons into this, stir it up, and then stick the chicken and the buttermilk into a bag and let it sit overnight. And I swear to God, that is the best chicken that you'll ever have. The cooking on it is just carrying it around. Bring the cookie to me, please. Let's.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna put it over here. But yeah, it's a really, really simple recipe. It's unbelievably delicious. It takes like no time, and this is again a cast iron skillet recipe. You just get the, let's see, what does it say? Put the chicken in at 425 on a skillet, and then there's some tips on like turning it and everything. But basically, you cook it in that skillet for, let's see, about an hour, and it is game changing. Like so good.
For the cookies, someone mentioned the toothpick test, and I actually specifically don't use the toothpick method for these cookies because I want them to have a little bit of like softness in the middle, and like I'm not selling these, so you know
They don't have to be cooked.
they don't
all the
have
way
to be
through.
cooked. Like they are cooked all the way through, but it's very, very light. You know what I mean? I want that. I like that. And as you keep it in the, like if you keep it in the cast iron or on the baking pan, it cooks a little bit while it sits. So if you bring it out just before it's completely cooked, as it sits, it will cook all the way through.
Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just getting my 2 tablespoons of salt. And then I can honestly just use the bag to mix this. So I just want that salt to mix into the buttermilk.
What do you need it on? The oven?
425. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit. This will sit, and in about 20-ish minutes, I'll put the chicken into here, put it in the fridge, and let it sit until tomorrow.
So here's